What is up, my little Deinos? Vepsis, your host of the Helsinki Hydreigons, and we are back with the APA Academy Season 3 draft with our team here. And this time around, this is gonna be actually my own team that I was able to now draft for myself. If you did follow my last season, the APA Academy, back then I actually took over a team that was 0-7 and minus 20 something. Like, it was the dead last team in the entire league, standings wise, when I took it over. And back then it was like a semi-Ubers league in the end of Generation 7, and it was the first time around that I was actually playing versus Ubers mods, and I was somehow able to manage to go undefeated with that team, starting from the point when I took it over. And from dead last spot, we almost made a playoff push, and unfortunately we didn't make it, but it was a very satisfying run and be able to accomplish something like that. And I took over the team because I did want to open the door for myself and give myself opportunity to be part of APA and their leagues, and especially on the Wi-Fi side of things. So we are back invited, and I'm happy that I am. And here now we are going to be covering through my team that I was able to draft this season. We are going to be having basically standard drafting system, which you can see on the left side on the layout. It's pretty basic what it does. And we also do end up having Gigamaxes allowed this season. But one of the bigger things with Gigamax mons during this season is that they cannot run any other item than one of the, like, Pokeball, Great Ball, Ultra Ball, whatever. You get the picture. Basically, they cannot run any boosting item or any other item that would be actually beneficial to them to run. And with that, APA Academy decided to allow the new mechanic in the game while trying to make sure that it's not too broken, hopefully. And yeah, that's going to be one of the unique things here for this season, and something to keep an eye out as we go forward. But now let's jump into my first pick, and my pick, as you can see from below my face cam, is the 7th pick out of 10, because these are actually in order when you see the logos and such from each team in itself, when we have two separate pools. So in the pool that I was in drafting, I have the 7th pick, and now let's go and see what I was able to pick. And with my round 1 pick, I couldn't help myself by not picking my own mascot and my favorite mon, Hydreigon, man. We got him, boys. My little Deinos, we got the Hydreigon in our squad, and I'm really stoked about this. Not just because it's my favorite mon, but because this season will be post-home season. And you know what that means. We got Defog back, and more importantly, we have Roost back. And that means we can run Roost, Nasty Blood, Dragon Dash, all those new toys that my favorite mon got access to in this generation going forward. And I could not be more happier that I got this mon. I'm very surprised that it made back into the 7th pick in round 1, because in my opinion, from the standard mons, not including the Gigamax forms, but from the standard mons, I believe this was at least 3rd best mon available, right after Dragapult and regular Melmetal, which was allowed actually, which I think was the best mon available. But Dragapult is like pretty even with it, and just consider its speed here and phenomenal dual typing, it's also a very strong pick and can be considered as the best mon over Melmetal. But after those two, I do believe Hydreigon was the best pick for me to do, and the best mon available in the entire draft pool in itself. So I'm thinking that I was being very lucky in my position that I got this thing. And yeah, that's all I really need to say about Hydreigon. We know what it was able to do last gen, and in this generation it's only gonna be doing it even better. And in the round 2, I was able to select myself Gigamax Gengar, and I'm really excited for this one, because I feel like it has such a good offensive synergy with my first pick being Hydreigon. And just besides all that, and not even thinking about what I'm pairing it with, in itself I believe Gengar is like top 3 easily best Gigamax forms which are currently allowed in this season, right there yet again with Melmetal, which was also something that we are allowing with Gigamax form, which is not actually officially released yet, but based on how APA Academy decided to go with this thing, or this season, they do allow it actually. And one of the coaches was able to select it in my pool, which already went before my Hydreigon pick. But after that, I think Gigamax Gengar and Gigamax Grimmsnarl were the best two mons to be able to select at this point for myself. And I went with the Gengar, cause typing wise it had Penusunutsu with my first pick, and I'm really excited for this, cause I think it's gonna be a phenomenal mon. And one of the unique things about Gigamax Gengar, along with Grimmsnarl and Orbital, whoever ends up potentially picking that, is that they learn the move called Trick. And that is actually allowed to be used on my Gigamax forms or the other teams as well who have a Gigamax form that learn that move. And that means that I can actually trick away my Pokeball or whatever ball I'm holding that week. And meaning that the useless item that I'm forced to run beginning of the battle, I have a way to get rid of it and make my opponent having to hold that item instead. I think that was a very unique and key element for picking more like Giga Gengar here. And just in general, this thing is gonna be a beastman offensively. We know how strong Ghost typing is this generation because Pursuit is gone. Not many Dark types are actually available to us that we are considered very reliable, especially switching to something like a Gengar, and I get a phenomenal move pool with this thing. And this Gigamax move is pretty cool on Gengar, which is a Ghost type move that actually allows me to trap my opponent, meaning that on a following turn I don't have to predict if my opponent tries to pivot out after that first attack. I can just make sure that it's trapped in with me, and then I can blow it back on a following turn with something else that the Gengar has access to with its coverage, and it's gonna be an absolute nuke with the Gigamax max moves that they are like over 130 or 40 base power moves, barring moves like I think fighting and poison, and there's some other typings as well that they have base 90 only, but they have other benefits going for it. But that's pretty much what I want to talk about Gengar. I wanted to focus on this a little bit more because it's a Gigamax mon, and there's a lot of things going in this pick in itself, and a lot of factors that can make it shine in this format, and something to keep in mind as we go along in this season and you see other people using their Gigamax forms. So that is going to be a round 2 pick in Gigamax Gengar, and now let's go and see what I was able to pick in round 3. And as my round 2 pick, I decided to pick myself my Steel type in Cobalion in tier 2, and this was a huge thing that I went with Cobalion, mainly because I looked into the Steel types that were still available and the ones that I was thinking that I would be willing to pay for based on how my draft is going. Because I picked Giga Gengar or Gigamax Gengar, it actually reduces 40 points for my 4 free picks that I have. So that already limits me a little bit if I would even try to attempt to pick another tier 1. So instead of doing that and try to pick a Ferrothorn or Jirachi as my Steel type, which would have been obviously better, I opted to go with a tier below Cobalion here, which I thought is a very good Steel type in this generation. Even though we don't have C-moves that were a big thing with Cobalion to be able to run, I still believe this mon can prove itself to be very valuable asset to me. It gives me another mon that has a very good speed tier, especially in this generation. And just looking at my first 3 picks, that I have 110 in my Gigamax Gengar, I have a 98 in Hydreigon, which is actually pretty good in this generation, even post-home meta game, and Cobalion sits at nicely at 108 as well, and I think that's pretty good foundation already that I'm able to establish here with the speed tier wise. And I get myself another mono with momentum along with Hydreigon, because Cobalion gets Volt Switch, as we know. It gives me a Stealth Rocker. It gives me something that can also pop the opposing fairy types that Hydreigon would be luring in. Even though I'm not a great switching to it, I just have to pass out the fairy weakness later on, so my Gigamax Gengar is not the only fairy resist on my team. And that's one of the things that Cobalion that people will criticize, that it's dual typing being one of it being fighting. It does reduce its key resistance that Steel type would normally have, but I don't think that's a hindrance as long as you cover it elsewhere, and you just focus on the great things that Cobalion can do. And that's basically the mindset that I have, that I focused on the things that I know Cobalion can do, and the things that I know it's not able to provide for me as a more unique steel type, I just fix them later on. And we are gonna be seeing how we are able to do that. And let's move on to my round 4 pick. And as my round 4 pick, I decided to pick myself my first Generation 8 mod, and something like a new toy for me to use during this season. And I picked myself Hydreigons, and it's going to be my fairy type on this squad. And I'm actually really excited to try this thing out. I have given a try on already Galeria Weezing as one of my other new fairy types in this generation, which you are able to see in the UBL Season 4 run that I'm doing right now. And now I'm giving myself opportunity to try out Hydreigons, which is also a very, very good fairy type. And it's going to be actually another tier 2 pick for myself, so it's going to be my first free pick. And it's dual typing of Psychic and Fairy, such a strong combination offensively, especially when it learns a Mystical Fire to hit the Steel types, which are basically the only thing that can resist its dual stab, and that is phenomenal. It also gives me a Mon with Magic Bounce, so I already have a little bit of a deterrence to opposing status moves to be thrown at my way, as long as I bring this Mon, as well as the hazards as well to go along with it. So its ability is phenomenal. Magic Bounce is one of the best abilities out there that we have competitively wise. It also gets Calm Mind for setup, and it also gets Trick Room, which is actually really good with its low base speed stat, what I'm trying to ramble here. And that means that it can turn itself into winning condition that I can build around my rest of the team to have a goal that, okay, we're gonna be building this team in order that Hydreigons can win it under the Trick Room. And that's pretty cool asset to have, and something that I haven't had often, but I'm excited to try out potentially in some weeks where I'm gonna be using this as a win con. But that's all for Hydreigons. Really excited for it, and it's going to be one of our unique new mods that we get to use this season. And in round 5 we finally pick ourselves a Wallbreaker for this card, especially on the physical side that I still was lacking. And we got one of the best in business in MattOshea, man, aka the no switchings, man. There are not many teams that can really switch into its ground and ice type, as we famously already know about this thing. And that's one of the biggest factors that I wanted to have. And it actually fulfills a pretty nice speed tier on the team that I didn't yet have in base 80. It gives me another Stealth Rocker, even though it's a more offensive one. It wants to hit most of the time. It's still nice to have an option there if I see a way for utilize it that way. And also it can be a focus as lead for that as well, if that's my best case for the scenario in that current week. But it also gives me a phenomenal priority in Ice Shot, and that is so huge in this metagame, where the one of the better mons that we have now currently in the pre-home metagames, majority of them are dragon types. So it's huge thing to have Ice Shot priority to be able to deal with them, and I think that's gonna be one of the key elements that MattOshea can provide for us. Besides the wall breaking, it's that priority that I was really soughting after, and why I wanted to select this mod. So that is going to be our round 5 pick, coming back from the Eon World Trophy days, where we have it actually last time when I used it on this channel. So excited to give it a go, and hopefully it's gonna be doing yet again a lot of work like it was able to do in previous generations. And in round 6 I decided to pick myself a Rotom, and this is going to be my first time to get to use this particular Rotom form, and I'm actually really excited for this, because this was a mod that I really didn't value high enough in previous generations, but in this generation, especially when hidden powers are gone, I feel like electric types with able to hit ground types properly are so much more valuable and beneficial for you to have if you're going after an electric type in the first place. And I think Rotom is one of the better pivots in the game right now that you can have, and it also gets nasty bot like my Gengar and Hydreigon in this generation, which is pretty cool. I already have 3 mons that can use that kind of setup move, but not only that, it gives me another defogger on my team, because this is yet again post-home meta game. So Rotom along with my Hydreigon do have access to defog, and now it also gets back access to Pain Spirit as well, as some sort of form of way to recover. So it's a pretty nice mod for the team. I feel like it gives me a more momentum options on the team, adds a little bit of Volt Turn Core, what I already was able to establish earlier picks, and I think along with that, along with its dual typing to be able to break bulky waters for Mamoswine, I think it's gonna be a really nice fit for this team. And in round 7 I decided to pick myself my water type and my another grounded poison type in Quailfish, and this is going to be my tier 4 pick, and this was one of the mons that I was actually looking and back and forth thinking that do I actually go with this one to be my quote-unquote bulky water, and I opted to go that route as you can tell, and I basically did that because I wanted to preserve my tier 3 pick for something else, and I figured from tier 4 which were still available, I think Quailfish had one of the better fits for what I needed and what I can do with it in my future matchups going ahead for me. So I figured Quailfish will be really nice for that. It's not the bulkiest water types out there, but it's a really good utility mon, and I think I can make it work. It seems like kind of like a mon that I'm kind of used to use in the past, similar to Crample, which most people would not be so comfortable using as their pivot, but I have been able to use that mon very efficiently, and I'm hoping that Quailfish can be at least somewhere close to that level that I'm able to use Scramble in the past as a Intimidator pivot, and it also has access to spikes and toxic spikes, which were one of the key factors that I wanted to add, because hazard stacking can still be a route that I can take and help my other members of my team to be able to break through their counters a lot more efficiently when I have that extra more chip through the hazards in itself. So that is going to be Quailfish. Excited to give it a go. I think I have only used it one time in a league that I did not upload from, and besides that I haven't got to use it at all. So I'm excited to give it a go, and hopefully it's gonna be a good run with our Quailfish here. And in round 8 I decided to pick myself my second tier 3 mod, and in my opinion one of the better tier 3s period that were in the APA Academy draft pool, and that is going to be Snorlax, man, and I'm really excited to give this one another go. I haven't used it for at least 1 to 2 years, probably it's been more than like 2 years than 1 at this point, so I'm excited to give it a go. One of the bad things I guess for Snorlax in this generation is that the super berries were nerfed from 50% recovery to 33% of recovery, but I don't think that's going to be a really hindrance to Snorlax too much. You can still run it very efficiently with either that the recycle set, or you're going to be running rest on it, or just basically running assault vest on it, or choice bandit, or what have you. I think Snorlax pure normal types and bulky normal types are so rare right now in both pre-home and now in post-home metagame in Generation 8. And considering how much better ghost types became, I think it's very, very key to have something like a Snorlax that can deal with them, and it also has a really good ability in Thick Fat, giving me another fire resistance to the team thanks to that ability, along with my Quailfish and Hydreigon, which means that those are now less pressure to take those kind of hits, especially on the special side. And just in general my team lacked a little bit of that natural bulk on the team, and I feel like Snorlax definitely adds that to our team, and I'm excited to see what we can do with it this season. And as my round 9 pick, I decided to go with one of the returning members from last season that I had in here in the APA Academy. And that is going to be the Web Potato. The Stunfisk is back, and I'm really happy for being able to make this pick. And basically one of the big things that I made this pick from tier 5 was that the tier 5, man, let me tell you, it's pretty damn bad what mons there were available to us to even force to pick from there. Like, we are forced to pick one of a tier 5 mon in our draft, and majority of them I would not consider anywhere close to be valuable in a standard draft when we have so many good mons above them. Like, you cannot really bring them into a matchup and expect them to actually do things, but I feel like Stunfisk definitely serves a purpose, not only to be able to broaden in certain matchups, and it actually typing wise was key for me to draft, even though I already had a Mamoswine on my team, which is a ground type, even though I have a Rotom with electric typing being part of it already in my draft. Stunfisk is still key because it provides me a flying resist, and that's a huge thing, and one of the typings that I did want to cover to be able to have an actual resist to, because my Cobalion was the steel type that I commit myself into, and the Rotom was the electric type that I committed myself earlier. So Stunfisk, regardless of the typings that I already shared with my other mons on this team, with itself, it can still provide that key resistance, provides us a reliable defensive stealth rocket, so Mamoswine and Cobalion aren't necessarily always forced to run that if I bring this mon. And I've been using this mon in the past usually being always happy with it, that it always finds its way to be my lucky charm, and that's what I'm banking on this season as well. And with my round 10 and one of my remaining of the picks that I'm able to still do for my draft is going to be Orbital, and this was actually a pretty important pick for my draft because it added me sticky webs, and that is a big thing because I wasn't able to actually pick myself one of those really fast mons that we only have so few in the Galarian decks in general. Even after post home, we don't have too many of them that go beyond the Gigamax Gengars base 110 speed tier. So because I wasn't able to get that, and all of the other coaches basically took the ones that I would consider valuable to use in draft league format, I decided that the sticky webs is my next best thing that I can do for my draft and make it more better diverse team in regards to the speed tier matchups that I can utilize it that for. And with Orbital having access to reliable recover in recover, that actually gives it a way to be consistent pivot and be able to have consistent opportunities to get those sticky webs out, which I think is a very important to have. So it's not just like I do it once, and if you don't get it right that time around, well, you just waste one of your 6 mons that you brought into the matchup. I think Orbital has more consistent ability, potential in it, and it also provides me another really good fighting resist on the team, which I thought was also pretty nice to have when I have things like Cobalion, Mamoswine, and Hydreigon, for example, and Snorlax if I didn't mention it. So I think just all those things, and the fact that it has my favorite ability in Frisk, which can enable to see opponent's item, especially in a chess timer shenanigans when we don't have really much time in every single turn to really start calking and figuring things out. It's a lot nicer to just send this thing in, see what my opponent is holding, and already give me a very good input that what my opponent's set will likely to be. And I really like all these factors that the Orbital provides for my team, and I'm excited to use it as one of my 2 Generation 8 mons that I was able to pick for my draft. And as my final pick of the draft, I decided to go with Flareon, and this is going to be actually a mon that I decided to pick from tier 5 instead of picking from tier 4, which I was able to steal a 4th from. And this is basically because of a lot of the fire types that I gave a thought on to be able to pick as my final pick, they were already taken by the other coaches. Like all of the options that I considered were taken after my Orbital pick. So because that happened, I was like, you know what, I had a good backup in Flareon, and I'm willing to go for it and give it a go. I never used this mon in draft league format before, and I'm actually excited to use it, believe it or not, because in this generation fire types became more viable to use in different ways thanks to the heavy duty boots as item. And this thing can go defensive, it can go offensive, it provides me a nice speed tier in 65, it gives me a cleric on the team and wish support. So there are a lot of things that I can see Flareon to be able to provide for my team. And one of the key resists that I also wanted to add was Fairy Resist, yet again because my Cobalion as a steel type couldn't do that for me. So now I have more options to deal with those, both from physical side and from the special side as well. So I think I was able to cover that pretty well. Big shoutouts to go good friend of my GCC, who actually highly recommended me to pick Flareon throughout the draft already earlier rounds, and I decided that, you know what, I'll take your Flareon that you were recommending me to and give it a go, and I think it's gonna be a pretty nice fit. But that's going to be my draft for the APA Academy Season 3. Let me know in the comment section below how you feel about my draft. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you're new so you won't be missing out the action in this season for us, and as well as my UBL Season 4, which is going right now as well in my channel. So make sure to do that. Make sure to check out all of the courses in the AP Academy as well. Their YouTube channel links will be down below in the description. Go give them some love and thought, and checking their draft analysis as well, which go up today on Saturday. And our week 1 battles will go up on the upcoming Friday, and Friday will always be the upload day unless there are going to be delays. Knock on wood, well, there's the wood. Knock on wood, there won't be any delays for us during this season. Hopefully we can always deliver it on Friday, and that's what I'm having as a goal for this season. Besides to make into the playoffs, I want to be as consistent as I can be with uploads for you all. So thank you yet again for watching. Stay tuned for the next week, and until then, I'm gonna be seeing you guys later.